it grows old, it teaches all things. Aeschylus. Aeschylus was known as the father of tragedy. Tragedy is something that Greek mythology is no stranger to. In this time, we have accumulated many different cultures, traditions, and religions. One of these religions was gathered in the city of ancient Greece. We've all heard of Greek mythology at one time or another in our lives, whether that be from school or the books that we have read. We've all heard of it before. Why does that matter, you may ask? What does Greek mythology have to do with us in the day and age that we live in? Well, it relates to us because it is still present in our everyday lives. We still see it in school, we still see it in books, we see it everywhere. We see it in logos, in children's animations, even our present day architecture. I began having a love for Greek mythology at a very young age. Well, the first book I was ever able to really comprehend was on a story about Heracles. Heracles is the Greek knowledge name. Hercules is Roman mythology. Well, Miss Johnson had us read a book on Heracles, and I had a really bad problem with comprehending words at this time. And so naturally, when that was the first book I was able to understand, I was like, okay, I'm gonna read more stories on Greek mythology. I began to get very curious about the topic. Why is one story told in a million different ways? Why was it even created in the first place? These were all questions I had for myself, and I gradually began to explore. This talk, I will give you not only a brief history over the subject and its origins, but why it is important to us today. Greek mythology can be seen almost every time you step out of your house, and even when you stay inside. As I said before, it can still be seen in logos, animations, and even our architecture, and these are only a few of the topics I will be discussing. To start off, I think it is important to have a brief knowledge of how did it begin. Well, Greek mythology is a cluster of stories. It centers around heroes, gods, and the rituals practiced by them. They prayed, they worshiped, and they sacrificed to these gods, thinking that they were real. It was believed as an actual real religion, and that it came about because basically we had just a lack of knowledge. They wanted to know, why did the tides rise? Why did thunder strike? They wanted to know all these things, and in their own way, they were able to achieve it. As time passed, however, Greek mythology became what it is today, just myths. There are still some, but very few, who still believe in it. According to researchers James Head, a well-known theologian, found that 2% of Greece's population still believes in this ancient culture, in this ancient religion. The myths today are still used to teach. The myths provide us with one of two things: what is morally good or what is morally bad. Greek mythology and its myths can get very dark very fast. There's details of rape and adultery. There's so many things that can just make your heart turn sad. One of the things that is really presented is warnings towards women. In the myths, it is shown a lot of Greek gods having affairs on their spouses. This was a way to form complacency in these women because they were being cheated on. Athenian men often sought out female companionship in those who were not their wives, but claimed it was the wife's fault. Now that we know the Greek origins of how Greek mythology came to be, we can get into how it is still seen in everyday life. Architecture. We see it everywhere we look. There are so many different buildings. Each and every one of these buildings have a certain design and mainframe to them. If you look closely, you will find many signs of Greek mythology. The Parthenon is just one example of those. The Parthenon is a temple that was made for the Greek goddess Athena. She was the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. There are many different myths on how Athena came to be. But the one thing that they all agree on is that Zeus was her father. This is just another example of how Greek mythology and its interpretations are not just one, but many. In an interview made by Princeton University, Claude Colomet says modern-day misconceptions view Greek mythology as a single mythology when it is rather an archaeology. Another place where you can see Greek mythology in modern-day architecture is the White House. While the architecture did not use primarily Greek styles, it incorporated many of them into it. It is important to know this because it is part of the reason why Greek mythology still affects us today. Another reason why Greek mythology is still prominent today is not only because of books, shows, and movies, but also science, art, names, and brands. Ancient Greece helped lay out the foundations of astrology, mathematics, biology, engineering, medicine, and linguistics. No matter where you will go, you will probably see a reference to Greek mythology in one form of it or another. For instance, in the logo of Goodyear tires, the brand has this symbol right here. This is a symbol of Hermes. He is the messenger god. Another place where we can see it is Amazon. Everyone has heard of Amazon. And Amazon got its name from the Greek warriors who were known for their archery skill. Another place in which Greek mythology is seen is the Olympics. The Olympics greatly resemble the Olympians. The Olympians was Zeus's inner circle. The inner circle was prominently of his brothers and sisters that he saved from the clutches of Kronos, their Titan father, who decided to swallow all of his kids. Gotta love that for them. Well, not only that, the Olympic Games is something that Greece used to hold. And it still performs some of the old traditions, like the olive leaf on the crown winner's head, the lighting of the Olympic flame, and the opening and closing celebrations of it. While it is definitely not as gory as it used to be, there are still many things that are seen that they did back then that they do now. Greek mythology, while it is not exactly real, we can still learn many things from it. Just like how those stories, they can be morally good or morally bad, and we can learn from their mistakes, even if they didn't take place in real life. Just like we read children's books, of course, they always have a moral to the story at the end of the day. And that is part of the reason why Greek mythology is so important. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. Bye.